All right, welcome back. It's been a little while. It's been a little while. I've been on Shadow Show more than I have mine this week, I think. Though I did make a video explaining my position on humans, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit. First, I hope you can see that. This is James of Hyperborea, and it's the picture of me leaning against my Mishka and having a nap. You can see Saturn in the background. If you want to see it up close, you go to my Discord if you aren't already on there, or go to like Teespring, I think it is. Let me look at the bag. This is the bag my King Baldwin shirt came in. Because I mean, come on, man, you gotta have a King Baldwin shirt, but it's Teespring, I believe. The link is also in my Discord, but I may add that link to the info on this video, just so people who want to can go and look. And if you want, buy a shirt. I'm actually going to be making a shirt that's just bear. I may start adding, like, to get the bear picture, I actually had to do a cut of a picture that Cold Iron made. And the thing is, I am learning is Cold Iron is telling a story about me. Oh, hush. In Hyperborea that I don't even know about. So you can tell the chronological order of all of the different images based on how big or small bear the dog is. So in the one where I'm walking and he's tucked in next to my hood, that's obviously one of the first pictures of the story of that character, right? Who just happens to share an appearance and a name with me. Right, Mishka? Waggly tail. Yeah, there's my boy. And then, of course, you have some where he's a little bigger, and then a little bigger yet, and then a little bigger, and then, the ones where he's gigantic, like the one on this shirt where I'm literally leaning against him, and, he's as big as I am. Those are later on. So you can almost imagine, like, the first one, I'm struggling, in my life on Hyperborea. But then by the one where I'm leaned back on the mountaintop, just looking up at the sky, I've accomplished something, even if all I've accomplished really is survive. So, yeah, that's a thing. So, special shout out actually to Cold Iron for making these things. I mean, I lack the creativity for this sort of stuff. I really do. The fact that I'm a DM is actually a miracle, because overall I'm just not very creative. I think the reason the people at my game table have so much fun is I'm not creative, but I'm really good at stealing great ideas from movies and books I've read. I think that might be the thing, So, I don't know what I've actually created that I would consider to be. Yeah, I don't know what I've created that I would consider to be very original at all. But, man, I have taken great ideas from some of the best writers, and, yeah, I just got a message from my bro. I'm not looking at the stream right this second. He usually games with us, but he got ill and hasn't been able to game with us for a while. So I've been like kind of keeping him up to date about what's going on, but also kind of being like, bro, when you get the time, you should come over again and join the game, right? Like, absolutely 100%. We'll give you a character. I'll even I mean, this guy I've been gaming with for like 30 plus years. So if he wants to play the game, I'll average out the XP of everybody in the group and he can have that. Some people might think that's not fair. You're going to let a new guy start with like a level 3 or 4 character. And I'm thinking, I don't care if it's fair. This guy's my bro. You know what I'm saying? There's no way I'm going to like be like, all right, you got to be level 4 or level 1. There's my brother. Brother, I hope you're showing up tonight. We're already down 1. So I hope you're showing up. One of the bros, unfortunately, is in the hospital getting some stuff. I was talking about, BGT and how I wish, of course, he's still recovering from cancer, and he's not really wanting to leave his house yet until he's sure his immune system is good. Okay, good. And the other thing is, and this sucks because it's like a rock and a hard place situation. He has this whole like game guild group whatever on DDO, and I think their big game meeting night on Dungeons and Dragons Online is Saturday. Now, I too have a character on DDO. I think I'm leveling up as a thief right now, but he used to be I maxed him out as a artificer, and let me tell you, I wish I just stayed an artificer. I loved the artificer. And I know some people are going to be like, well, that's lame, that's started. I don't care. The artificer was fun. Boy, Steven. There is Steven, my home skillet. Actually, no. Cold iron's the cold iron skillet. Steven's my brother in Hyperborean love. Actually, more of a fan of Hyperborea than I am, if we're honest. Since he owns the actual like 2016 box set, which get out of here, man. I mean that shows like someone who, in my opinion, that's a man who saw a good thing and jumped on it right off the bat. So, a little envious, but also always a pleasure to have you around, Steve. You know that. And yes, like I said, I'm wearing one of my James of Hyperborea shirts. I don't know if Jeffrey Talanian, when I talked to him, he said he wasn't sure about the shirt thing. But that's okay. I'll just make my own. I'll just go and take a nap before a game. What? Really, dude? All right, fine. This is how my brother does me. You'd think he'd be all hyped to see me, but instead he's like, I'm just going to go take a nap. Kiss my ass. No, I'm not saying I'm not as big of a super fan as you. I'm saying you were smart enough to get in on the ground floor. I'd never even heard of this stuff. And by the time I heard of it, second edition was already out of print. So I'm all like looking around everywhere to try and get a copy of second edition. And let me tell you, that wasn't happening because people on eBay and stuff like that were trying to sell a used second edition rulebook for like $400 or something. And I'm just like, I really want to look into this game, but I don't want to look into it that much. And I could have just bought PDFs. I know that. But I tend to, as much as I do love PDFs, and I do love PDFs, no lie. I always like to have the hardcover so that I can read the hardcover. And if I want to, at the game table, I can just pop the PDF open and see, It's like, to me, it's two tools, and I want them both. You get what I'm saying here? So luckily though, I followed the designer, and as soon as they announced there was going to be like a new printing, third edition, blah blah blah, I was like, I will not miss out again, and I did. I went whole hog. I got everything, so I'm happy about that. And yes, I am a Stephen, you were there when Shadow and I was having our conversation about humans. And maybe me saying humans are the hardest to play wasn't the exact right way to say it, but maybe what I should have said is, yeah, you don't got the hat though. Well, unlike Double D, who gets all the hookups because of what a amazing guy he is, I had to pay for this. You know what I mean? Double D got his as a gift from the man, Jeffrey Delanian. So even though I got the hat, I'm still a little envious of my bro, Diversity and Dragons, Double D. It's so weird. I know he's told me his name like a dozen times. He's called me before. Double D has called me. And yet, I can never remember his name. To me, he will always just be Double D. Isn't that weird? No, I didn't. I don't even know what no one told me anything about it. I was hanging out with, let's see. I was hanging out with my wife. She taught me a new card game, Skip Bow, which is incredibly fun. And I watched Diversity of Dragons. I watched Dungeon Delver. I watched Unchained and Rich. I can never remember the name of a show, but you guys know who I'm talking about, Richard, right? So I didn't even know that Jeff was going to be live somewhere. He told me all I got to do is contact him and set up a time, and he'll be live on a show with me. I just haven't done it. I hope he doesn't think it means I don't love his work, because I love his work. And from what I've been told by Double D and other guys that have actually met him in real life, the guy's just a straight up G. You know what I mean? Like, totally cool, totally awesome, down to earth, a humble dude, a gamer, like a gamer's gamer. Is when I say straight up G, I don't mean gangsta. I mean gamer. This guy is just a straight up gamer. He's a gamer bro. And hell, he showed up out of the blue in my chat, and we talked like two dudes sitting at the bar having a pint. So I'm inclined to believe he is just a nice guy who had a great idea and turned me into a super fan. Now, I'm still a huge fan of Adventure Conquer King and Baptism of Fire. People always get that flipped because they seem to think that you can't be a fan of more than one thing. I love Alexander Macris. I wish him a happy Easter and Christmas every year. I love his work. I own his work. I've ran his work. The only reason I think that I kind of ended up with Hyperborea before I knew about it is I got tired of elf games, guys. That's it. That's all. There's not a lot of complication. I got tired of the elf games. And again, I love his Roman style, everything. Love it. As a matter of fact, I'll probably use Secret of the Sinister Stone if the characters ever encounter like Rome, the Rome that exists on Hyperborea. I'll probably use that as one of the outlying forts before they get to the actual city. But because yes, there's a Nova Roma on Hyperborea. That's where all the Romans are. Now that said, I wanted my group to play Baptism of Fire with a fierceness. I mean, one, being Germano-Slavic, Orthodox Christian, absolutely in love with like ninth and 10th century Eastern Europe, the myths and everything. I can tell you all about Vladimir the Great and his grandmother, Olga, who burnt down like a bunch of cities, and like, the House of Rourke and all that. I've read all about a lot of that stuff and watched the movies, right? Um, my players just were not at all interested. They're very interesting. A lot. Don't let me misspeak there. They were not interested in ever playing that game. No matter, I mean, we made characters. I made the pitch. We actually kind of went through everything, and I was sitting here thinking this is going to be a great game. They're going to slay, Vodalax. There's going to be some tension between the Orthodox Christians in the Redlands, who are mostly Rus, and the rest of Poland, which is leaning Latin. I mean, this is going to be great, right? Nah, they just did not want any part of that. And the main reason, those of them that came to me and told me, was they didn't want to play a game that had real world religion in it, because they felt like, I don't know, like it wasn't a game anymore. Maybe, I don't know what the issue was, but that was the issue. They didn't want to play a game where there were actual real world religions, where you actually played a Christian priest going around doing things. And everyone I play with, I think, is for the most part Christian. So it wasn't like a hatred of Christianity. It was like they just didn't like the real world interjected into the fantastical Eastern European setting. Whereas I thought that made it even better, man. I was all like, hey, what's up, Timmy? I was all like, I will play a Varangian. I will side with my Christian brothers and go kill Pechenigs and, whatever. I mean, I'm about it. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't want that. So I looked around for the next best thing I could think of, and someone had did a video about Hyperborea. So I thought, I own it. You guys might have heard this story. I'm like, oh yeah. Hungar's like, we're never changing games, right? And I'm like, never, you know, uh, you know. But well, that right there, that just says it all. When your players are just like, we've been playing for 6 months. We're going to play tonight about 7 o'clock. We'll probably play until around midnight, because that's what we do. 7 to either around 11 or midnight, depending on how fired up and awake my construction worker buddies are, right? The ones that actually do the hard work. And so the wife has got like an 8-pound pork butt, slow cooking. She's had it slow cooking all day. In her seasonings, she uses like apple cider vinegar and a ton of seasonings. And then she shreds it, and I eat it as is. You can put barbecue sauce on it, but I just eat it. Freaking shredded pork, man. I'm telling you, right? But yeah, no one at my table has even mentioned, even hinted at wanting anything else. It's like when I got the Arkham Adventures role-playing game, and I loved it so much, I bought pretty much everything you could buy for it currently. I'm still waiting for that Welcome to Paradise freaking set to come out. Yeah, they were like, well, maybe as a weekend thing, do an adventure, but they're viewing that basically the same way they view Mansions of Madness, something to do on a weekend, when we're not playing the real game we play, And I'm totally good with that, honestly. I mean, I'm sitting here like, this is the first time. The only game that my players were so into that I know that they had no want to ever leave was when I was running OSE Advanced in my homebrew setting, which was 10th century Russia. Actually, probably 12th century because there was a czar. So, whenever, let's say Ivan the Great was, it was about then. You know what I mean? And I used all Eastern European monsters and everything, and they loved it. But I did allow demi-humans, but they were very minor, and no halflings. Halflings were like a rumor. Like some people said there might be halflings, but no one had ever seen one. So it was dwarves, gnomes, elves, humans. That was it. Nice. Yeah. I thought they would be like human sized. No, them bastards are large, man, which is what you want, right? So to get back on the topic, and anyone can have the opinions they want. What I meant when I said humans are the hardest to role play, which in a way is true, but in a way, I can see why some people be like, no, they're not, is because humans are the only race, and I think I got this through the shadow when I was on a show. Humanity is the only race in any game you sit down and play that there's no template. There's no book telling you what a human acts like. I mean, if you sit down and you say, I'm going to play a Knight of Charlemagne, well, then you kind of know what that human's going to be like, but not really. I mean, he serves God, he's a member of the court of Charlemagne, he's a knight, he likes armor and horses, but do you know what his favorite food is? Do you know, like, what kind of women he likes? Is he a fan of big butts? I mean, you don't know any of that shit, right? But when you choose to play an elf, half of your character's entire personality has been pre-written for you, unless you decide to just ignore it and play the elf however you want, which then is going to piss people off because you're not playing the elf the way they think you should play an elf. So it's kind of a no-win trap playing, and I just say elf for F of it, any demi. It's a no-win trap because if you play the elf the way everybody wants you to play the elf, then you're super limited in how you can play your own damn character. But if you don't play the elf the way they want you to play the elf, and you actually go out and start being a unique, special snowflake, then they get mad that you're not playing the elf right. And it took me about 40 years to figure that out. And maybe that's why I only played demi-humans when I was very, very young. And then I immediately swapped the humans, specifically mostly human fighters. And I have never made a character that I've ever heard anyone ever say, that character's kind of boring to be around. Like, if your human fighter is boring, you're boring. What the hell are you doing with yourself? That would be my question. What are you doing? Why is your human boring? Because humans in reality are not boring. I mean, we all know tons of different people, they're all humans, that are not boring. They're exciting. We've all read books about, like I said, King Baldwin and things like that. These are exciting characters. And I would even go so far as to say all the best characters in Lord of the Rings were humans. Specifically, my favorite character was Boromir. And then after Boromir, his brother Faramir. And then Aragorn. All the best characters were humans in that book, in my opinion. Because the rest of them, I don't know. They just weren't that interesting. Or it just really didn't seem like they had stakes, Like Legolas was going to live until he didn't want to. And he was so good at everything, it was like nothing could F with Legolas. So there's no real stakes in anything for Legolas. But Boromir died. You know what I mean? He literally not only effed up, then tried to redeem himself and died for it. I mean, if that's not a way more powerful story than Legolas and Gimli becoming friends, I don't know what to tell you guys, man. I mean, and that's any of you watching. I just don't know what I could tell you about it then. I mean, because Boromir's character arc is probably the best, if not the top couple in that whole book. You could argue Aragorn's character arc was better, and I would say, yeah, it is pretty freaking good. But I mean, was Frodo's character arc really that great? I don't think it was. And Gimli and Legolas, you know, I was more interested in Eowyn. You know what I mean? Eowyn. As a matter of fact, the first time I read that book, I kind of hoped she would be the one to hook up with Aragorn. Didn't happen, but she got Faramir, and that's a pretty good consolation prize if you're, the Lady of the Rohirrim, right? Now, I'm not saying elves aren't cool. I mean, Glorfindel is probably one of the coolest characters in all of Middle-earth history. But he never does anything. And the reason he never does anything is he's so effing cool. It's like Glorfindel probably could have done what the 9 Walkers did by himself. Right? The one elf that the Nazgûl couldn't even look at. The one guy that could face all 9 of them down by himself. Maybe they should have just told Frodo to hang out with Glorfindel and walk right into Middle Earth. But then again, Sauron would have saw Glorfindel coming a billion miles away because he glowed like that. So, not a good idea. Anyway, I talk about Tolkien because I love Tolkien. But what kind of person's going to read like Red Nels and say, all the characters in Robert E. Howard's Red Nels are kind of boring because none of them are elves? I'm just like somebody is missing the point here. Now, Shadow wants to play elves. Shadow is my homie. He's been my homie. He can play all the elves he wants, and I will probably make fun of him a little bit for it, but hey, whatever, right? That's what you do with your bros. You kind of, razz them a little bit about the choices they make. But this is something Shadow has said, but I've heard it multiple times from many gamers. I'm a human in real life, so why would I want to be a human in game? Well, because in real life, you can't become a hero or a king or a knight. Well, maybe a knight. But you guys get what I'm saying, right? In real life, you can't fight terrible monsters. You can't do heroic stuff or maybe even scumbaggy stuff, depending on how you play your character. You can't fall in love with a 900-year-old witch and then be done wrong. I mean, okay, maybe that could happen. I don't know, but you get the point I'm getting at. In real life, I will always be a retired fireman. That's it. Compared to a lot of people, I led a very exciting Mido. Compared to a lot of people, I led what most people would consider a very exciting life, right? Full of adventures, and danger and death and all this and that. But my career as a firefighter does not even touch on the stuff that, I've done or my players at the table are doing in game. That's what it's about. So Hyperborea, the fact that it's human only, I think that is one of its strongest points. And I know some people, my bro Shadow, they might think that that's like a downside. I disagree. Again, the fact that you have to play a human is not a downside. It's a strength, because then you can't rely on the template of the demi-human you've chose to play to guide you at all. You just have to, like if you just play a common man, it's wide open. You can do whatever you want to do. But if you play a Roman, well, at least as a Roman, you can look up and see, well, how do Romans act? And you can try to run down that rabbit hole if you want, but you don't have to. Because at the end of the day, even if you selected to play a character from a Roman background, that has F all to do with how you're actually going to behave in the world. There's no presuppositions. There's no, well, elves are this way or dwarves are that way. No, no, no. That is why I think humans are better. But I did concede to Shadow. Maybe I shouldn't have said harder. But I don't know. Deep down inside, I think they are more difficult to play a human. Because again, you don't have the template. When you sit down in an AD&D game, if you read about the elves, well, you know what elves are like. What's up, Big James? How you doing, brother? You know what elves are like. So you have at least a pretty large chunk of how you're going to role play that character has already been decided for you. And if that's what you want, then awesome, right? But when you choose human, 0 has been chosen for you. If you want to play a nature-loving Ponzi dude that dances around in the forest under the moonlight, loves singing and playing harps and shit like that, well, a human can do that. That wouldn't even be weird. Just make the human a ranger or something and call it a day, right? But for an elf, people kind of expect you to be that way. And I guess that might be what I'm getting at all along, is expectation versus the freedom to just do whatever you want. I get that, Timmy, and you play a lot of elves. However, are you playing elves the way the book tells you to play elves? Or are you playing elves the way you want? And if you're playing the elves the way you want, then does that mean that you're actually playing the elf wrong based on the setting, etc.? That's my whole point right there. Because every setting that involves demi-humans will tell you how those demi-humans are. I mean, even Warhammer, and there's 3 types of elves in Warhammer, technically 3.5, right? If you count the sea elves, which are really just high elves. Yeah, read about them, and it will tell you exactly how they are. The high elves are all kind of this way. Dark elves are all this way. Forest elves or wood elves are this way. And it's not like they're saying optionally. They're telling you what their culture is like. And the same with the dwarves. The dwarves all live this way. And those who don't live the way that dwarves live, well, they end up becoming the freaking slayers. So, right? So even in Warhammer, you are pigeonholed if you play a demi-human into being a way. It's literally, dwarves are the worst because, like I said, if you want to play a dwarf and you decide to be a scumbag slayer for you, buddy, you know what I'm saying? It's like, sorry, you broke your word, your honor, your whatever. Yeah, you're a slayer now. Because that's just the way the dwarves are, right? And that is actually the correct description of that whole situation. That is just how they are. Dwarves are just that way, right? But humans, how are humans, right? It doesn't matter where you come from as a human, and I'll stay with Warhammer for a minute. Whether you're Imperial, you're from Bretonia, Estalia, whatever, at the end of the day, you're a human. And you can behave however you want. You do whatever you want. Now, if you're a Bretonian and you want to be a knight, there's some shit you got to deal with. But it's not a race-based thing. It's you choose to do this. You don't have to, right? So, I don't know, guys. Am I just repeating myself at this point? Has the horse been right and properly flogged at this point? Do we all understand where I'm coming from here? Because if we do, then, we can move on to some other thing. And you don't have to agree. You really don't. You don't have to agree with me. But I do hope you understand where I'm coming from on this and why I think that humans are the best for role playing and that humanocentric worlds are actually better than elfie worlds. Like the only way, and this is something I mentioned to Shadow, the only way I would want to play in a world that had elves would be a world where humans were like barely above Denisovians or something. And it's, the elves are in the middle of their dying empire arc, and you're playing an elf trying to, like, keep the elven empire together, defeat orcs. But you also got to worry about these humans too, because they're up and comers. And who knows, in a few thousand years, they could be whipping your ass. And a few thousand years for an elf is what? A couple generations by most role playing games, how they describe elves, right? Like in D&D, isn't it like elves live on average like 500 years or something in AD&D, depending on the elf? So the fact that the Denisovians are going to quickly interbreed with and create something like me, or Neanderthal will, for an elf, that's a blink of the frickin' eye, right? It's like one day they're hanging out doing whatever the hell they do in their elfie cities, and the next day there's armies of these frickin' bearded dudes running around just burning shit to the ground. Because why? Because F you, that's why. So again, we get back to my initial point. The long backstories. Yeah, see, it's not about the backstory though, Tim. It's not about the backstory. It's about the fact that as an elf, half of your backstory has been chosen for you by the setting, right? Like, if you're playing Middle Earth role playing or the One Ring, you're going to play elves the way they tell you elves are. And if you try not to do that, then the other players are going to look at you side-eyed like you've been smoking crack or something. Because they're going to want to know why you chose to play a wood elf from the great Greenwood Forest, Mirkwood, but you're acting like a freaking maniac. They're not. They're going to be like, what are you even doing here? You're not playing an elf. So that to me, that is an issue. Like you with your bearded elf. See, you're lucky because you're playing in a group with players that are like, cool, right? But a lot of players will give you shit about that.
DM was a little bit, but I don't care. He actually made it more interesting. He made me want to play it because of how he made it out to me. I was like, oh, this sounds fun.
But you understand what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, I wasn't even talking about other races, though. I'm just talking about these people who like making these long, intricate backstories for their characters.
See, that is an entirely different conversation, but I'm willing to have it. I don't like it. I guess we just had it, didn't we?
Yep.
I agree. In my Hyperborean game, whatever secondary skill and whatever culture you chose to play is kind of your backstory. If you want to flesh it out a little bit, knock yourself out. Like, okay, we've got a Norseman. She's a Dane. Her secondary skill is selling. Well, we kind of know what she must have been in her past. A raider or a fisherman or both. Right? And if the next guy makes a Celt that's a blacksmith, well, guess what? We kind of know what he did too. I mean, the characters in my game all rolled random ages. They're all like 18. I think one of them might be 17, the Celt. I mean, he's a kid. So how much backstory does a 17-year-old have?
I know.
Right. He grew up in a village in the Celtic lands near Gaul, and not Gaul, but Gal. And then he decided to become a scout because probably at the age of 13, that's what his tribe put him to work doing.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, in ancient cultures, by the time I know in an old culture I used to be a part of, 13 you were expected to have a job. Like for real. You started your apprenticeship at like 7. And you were ready to have a job as a full-grown man by 13. And when you had your bar mitzvah, you were ready. You were done. You're get married now. Go do some shit, right? And I'm sure other cultures were that way too. The ancient Slavs. I mean, it probably depended on how fast you grew. Like if you were a 14-year-old kid, but you were 6'1", yeah, your ass is probably already getting recruited to fight. Maybe if you're little and weak, they might treat you a different way. I don't know, hand you a bow or something. But yeah, people might live into their 50s and 60s as adventurers, but in most cultures, they started being soldiers pretty young. So the 17-year-old, all he knows is he grew up in his tribe. He had a chieftain. They were Celts. They speak the Celtic language. He was a scout for his village. Apparently, not much really happened, so he left and became an adventurer.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing is, I'm just glad that Bubba did not allow for that backstory I was telling you about. I mean that was just ridiculous. You would expect him to be just pretty much assassinated as soon as the game starts. Really, at that point.
Oh, because the elves hated you so bad because of...
No, I'm talking about the guy who wanted to be accused of murdering a king.
Yeah.
That's like, what are you talking about, dude? That's gonna be death on level 1. You wouldn't be able to go anywhere. You're dead.
Right. It would be like Kwai King Chang, you know, Kung Fu, the old Kung Fu show, without the actual plot armor that keeps you alive every time people try to kill you for murdering the Chinese, a member of the Chinese imperial family. Yeah, you ain't got plot armor, buddy. When you walk into town and somebody sees you and they're like, isn't that the asshole that killed that king? Isn't there like 1,000 gold piece reward for him? That's the end of your character. Good job. Right?
Yeah.
Well, you know. Nah. See, that kind of... Why would you want to be the guy who killed a king?
I don't know.
I mean, look. Going into Riders.
Or at least, even thought of that you were the one that killed the king. Why would you want to be the one who has that thing?
Right.
On you?
R.R. Martin made Jaime Lannister the Kingslayer, right? That did not help him. Like, even though he killed the Mad King, who was a douchebag, a lot of people still thought he was a douchebag for having killed the king. Which I never got. You would think that Ned Stark would have been like, thank you, Jaime. That guy killed my dad and brother or some shit. No. He's like, you broke your oath. And it's like, oh, God. Why are you such an idiot, Ned? One of my favorite characters from The Thing. Complete idiot, though.
Yeah.
Ned is the guy that in every situation makes the exact worst choice. Yeah, a monk in Boot Hill. All right. When I was 14, I worked a summer job as a cowboy on the Deseret Ranch. And it was a lot of fun. So I guess that's my background. But it would also be that one line. I used to do that, PB, and then I didn't, and now I did. There's no rhyme or reason, brother. But yeah, if I was making myself as a character, I don't even know if I would add that. Like, spend a summer as a cowboy? You know? Yeah, I get that he broke his oath, but well, okay, that's the point though. That actually is the point. If he had been anyone but Jaime Lannister, they would have killed his ass for sure. You know what I mean? But he broke his oath. They didn't kill him. Why? Because he's Jaime freaking Lannister. So unless that character you're talking about, Timmy, is like the son of one of the most powerful lords in the whole damn realm, yeah, he's not getting away with that shit. But yeah, I guess I see it both ways. You gave your word, you keep your word. But on the other hand, this guy is like literally burning people alive for fun. I mean, I don't know. You know, I'm a huge fan of keeping your word. I'm not a huge fan of standing by and watching somebody torture people to death. So that's where that shit gets complicated for me. Right? Right. So yeah, Tim. As long as the Kingslayer is the son of like some incredibly rich, powerful, noble lord, he might be able to get away with it, and people won't want to kill him. They'll just talk shit about him all the time.
Maybe, but
like other knights are going to be like, "F you, you know, oath breaker, go get out." But no one's going to touch him because
I'm still going to be good with, you know, that guy changing his story.
Oh no, I'm not saying that he shouldn't. I'm telling you how it could work. And the only way it works is if he's the son of somebody that everyone is terrified of.
Yep.
In this particular instance, we're talking about Tywin Lannister, the last guy in Westeros you really want to piss off. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, Tywin wiped out an entire noble house when he was 13 years old. The family was the Rains. They ruled a fiefdom called Castamere, and they thought they would, you know, rebel against House Lannister. Tywin was a 13-year-old man who led the army, and he exterminated every single member of that family. Not personally, obviously, but so Tywin's not the guy you want to F around with. You know what I'm saying? And yes, he killed the Mad King, but I'm going to look that up. It won't be tonight because by the time I get done talking to you guys, my players will be here. I will be setting up, and we will be running the next section of, okay, you're in Flan. What do you do? Right?
Yeah, what do you do?
What are you doing this week? I mean,
taking over the castle.
That was a thought, but I don't know if they want to do it. And now one of the most active characters in the group isn't going to make it because he had to be hospitalized.
Oh.
He'll be fine. You know, it was just, you know, he would be here, except he's actually in the hospital.
Yeah,
if he weren't in the hospital right now, he would probably be on his way.
Yep.
But he needed to be in the hospital because sometimes, you know, you got to take care of yourself, right?
Yep.
So we're down one player, but last week we ended in town at the tavern. So this week, after they rest up and do whatever they do, it's easy just to say that either, if he wants, somebody can run his character, but that's risky because if you die, you die.
Yep.
But you get your XP. Or he can just stay back in town and not get any XP, but be guaranteed to live even if there's a TPK. So that's a choice he gets to make. Like my brother-in-law, occasionally, because of his work, he doesn't show up until late. And he always tells my wife, which is his sister, just run my character. I don't care if I die. You know what I mean?
Fair. I do kind of feel sorry for Shadow in Bubba's game.
Why, did he die?
No, not yet. He hasn't started playing yet. Our first actual session is going to be this Monday. But he rolled really poorly, and he was upset about that.
Oh, attributes?
Yeah, he rolled like his best was like I think a 13, and everything was below 11 or 10.
Characters like that can be
Heck, and one of them was like
exceptionally
7.
interesting to play. However, and I know a lot of old schoolers are going to be like, "What? No, James, no. Hey, Ducato, what's up, brother?" I'm just drilling. Tell Ducato about my miniaturing right this second, real quick. I am drilling out the hands of these scorpion men so I can put like weapons in them.
Oh, Scorpion Men. That's something I've known about.
Well, there's a plateau in Hyperborea called the Plateau of
terrifying.
Zen that's absolutely crawling with these bastards.
You don't want to fight them.
You don't want to bite them.
Fight them.
Oh, they get 5 attacks per round. Weapon, pincher, sting. And they're pretty strong. They're like usually four hit die on average.
Yeah, and don't they also count their weapons with their own venom?
They can, and occasionally one of them will be a shaman or a witch or a necromancer.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I was.
Although I'm
earlier, Ducato, I was talking about humans and why I think that they're the best to play. Me and Shadow got into a discussion about that.
Hey, Paul.
Howdy.
How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing all right. What's shaking?
Well, I am drilling holes in Scorpion Man hands so I can put weapons in them and just talking about.
Those guys metal?
They are, because I guess Reaper never decided to make these guys in plastic.
Oh, wow.
And I have 6 of them.
There you go.
Because I thought that might be a decent encounter, but now that I think about it, maybe 1 or 2 might be a little bit better because these boys are rough. I mean,
if you got that many attacks, that might be a little rough on the team there.
Oh, 5 attacks, and again at plus 4 or 5 to hit.
I was digging around that Father's Day sale at the old comic book shop, and they've got all their RPG books buried. But I found a Victor Gorchev classic here. Look at this, Ghost Dog, Enter the Samurai RPG.
Nice.
I was like, holy shit, this is old. This is 2000. So $20 quarter off. I got it for what, $15? There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shadow didn't roll too good. He just decided to make a human fighter.
There you go. Oh, that's what I was leading up to. A lot of the old schoolers are going to think that I'm a poussoir here, but I use a stat array, and I let the players put it however they want. And the only rule is that, there's 2 rules. You can deduct 2 from anyone to add 1 to any other one, but you can never raise an attribute to 18 doing that. So if you want an actual 18 in my game, you have to roll. Or you can just take the array, which is not bad. I mean, it's 16, 15, 14, 13, 12.
Yeah, array's never that bad.
Whatever. So, I mean, if you take the array, you can play any career you want and be okay. But if you want that 18, you got to roll. Yeah, Ducato does great stuff. Ducato's a great guy. But, yeah.
It was a couple weeks ago he posted it, but he did a tree man. And I liked it because he had this big fat tree man belly, and he was screaming, and he had a big boulder in one of his hands. And I was like, I like a big, angry, fat, just tree man getting ready to commit violence. He's not there looking noble or, I don't know, talking to a little bird or anything. He just wants to crush you with a rock if you're not getting off his land.
Right. That could even be like, get off my land. Like the tree man, has got like a Texas accent or something.
Yeah.
He's just like, get off my land.
Yeah.
But at sea,
I'll be within my rights to crush you with this rock.
Oh yeah. I think I saw that, Ducato, because you were talking with Richard. When I very first got interested in Hyperborea, second edition was out of print and third edition didn't exist. And people wanted like hundreds of dollars for a copy of their second edition core book. And I was just like, no. And especially when I found out they were getting ready to come out with a third edition.
Yeah.
So the second he announced third edition, I went like to the highest for one person. I didn't go to store level, but
yeah,
I
was gonna say, I think that's what he said. He said that's what he's gonna do. Like if the books ever run out, he'll just do a new edition for the most part.
Well, he kind of did, because you have third edition and then you have the updated third edition.
Oh yeah.
Which is just the old third edition, but with a lot of errata added into the book. And I ended up getting both. And I ended up giving my brother-in-law my older third edition, because, I mean, that it's still an incredibly playable game.
Right.
And it was a good gift. I'm like, here you go. Here's an atlas. Here's the 2 books. Knock yourself out. Run them up, And I think I bought Cold Iron a bundle. I bought my brother a bundle. I might have bought someone else a bundle.
I still remember when he had like a handful of first editions left and he was just clearing them out to make room. And it was like, I could have got it. I do like the first edition had those, the booklets inside with the little spiral bound. Those are nice.
Oh, yeah. But that box set, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even that much errata. So, I mean, if you've got your dark orange Hyperborea third edition printing, knock yourself out. I mean, it's not enough that it actually really even matters that much. I bought it for 2 reasons. One, I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive about always wanting whatever the new one is. And 2, I wanted to support the guy.
Yeah.
But the main difference is this bit down here is in a much darker orange font. And the newer updated one's in a much lighter yellowish font.
Yeah, to make it pop, I guess, since it's in that area there in the dark.
Yeah, and this on the cover, Steve knows, that is a crashed starship of crabmen with 2 crabmen astronauts on the inside.
There you go.
And giants, these spiders are more than giant. These are like bigger than Law. These things are huge. So I ordered myself a custom miniature of my dog.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures. That was pretty cool.
Yep. I had to take the picture where I'm walking next to Bear, like through the snow, and cut me out, because every time I put the picture in, it wanted to make a miniature of me. So I cut me out and just made a picture of Bear, and then put that in, and so he's going to be like a heroic 32 skill. All right.
Oh, wow.
So he'll match all the artwork. Like, I'm actually wearing one of my, and it's James of Hyperborea, and you can see I'm on a mountain, Saturn's in the background, and I'm leaned back on Mishka, little bear, and I'm relaxing, because this is late. If you look at all the pictures, there's a chronological order, and you can tell by how big Bear is. When he's a puppy, that's the beginning of my whatever the hell I'm doing. And by this time, this is towards the end. Bear's fully grown, and I'm relaxing, kicked back, once and for all, finally at home in Hyperborea.
You know, James, you talking about a big Pomeranian makes me think of a joke I've seen where it's like a picture of a guy on a giant chicken, and it says, "Me riding in the sunset because the genie made a mistake in my misunderstood my wish."
You know what's funny though is in the German story, Hansel my Hedgehog, he rode a giant chicken. He was a young man who had been cursed to be a hedgehog, and he was they caught him like a different name, but he was like a man-sized anthropomorphic hedgehog, and he got betrayed by the woman he loved, so he mounted all of his shit up, and he got on his giant rooster and rode off, and then she chased after him. And it took her, she had to wear the bottoms out of 3 pairs of iron shoes before she finally found him. Because those old German stories are really dark and effed up. Oh, you got the monthly newsletter. Oh, I cannot wait for the Comorium source book. Yeah, I'm frothing at the bit for that. I have questions. I should have asked him when he popped into the chat. I should have asked him, like, how does a priest of Sagwa actually dress? Like what's that about? It's the most popular religion amongst humans. But I mean, are they just wearing like shitty brown clothes and sitting around being slobs? What are they doing with their lives? You know, they're worshiping a giant.
They look like Asmongold.
Right. They're worshiping a giant slothy freaking toad with wings. It's like, so like a priest of Apollo, I totally understand that. That guy's probably walking around in a toga. He's got his like golden leaf, whatever on his head, you know, those things that, you know, and maybe he's got a staff and some scrolls, but I'm having a hard time imagining what a priest of Sagwa would even look. My brother says like me, in armor with a big freaking footman's mace. And I'm like, well, okay. Yeah, I just ain't going to spend that much money, Ducato, just for a collection, especially since I just sold a guy my remaining entire 40K collection. The same guy that bought the last bit come back and got the rest. So I did make $1,500, which all went to the wife.
Right.
But my collecting stuff that I know I'm never going to use days, that's the past. That's over. You know.
Yeah, it's like I've been saying. I planned out my entire schedule for Gen Con, and I put very little time. Like, there aren't any set time stretches where I'm going to hit the exhibitor hall. I'm going to check it out on Sunday, and if shit was sold out, I don't care. Like, well, I'm not doing the FOMO thing anymore, where it's like, oh my god, you got to buy it, and then, you know what? Maybe 1 in 10 things you buy will still be something you play in a couple of years. So
right. And as Timmy pointed out, I think on Shadow's show, it was Steve pointed this out. Hungar said that he has zero interest in ever playing any game other than Hyperborea.
Right.
And the rest of the players at my table are on board with that. We've been going for 6 months. They're level 4-ish. And they're all like, no, F this. This is the best game we've ever played ever. But then again, I love it. And if the DM loves the game they're running, that matters, you know.
Yeah, well, that's why you see these people who feel like they act like they're held hostage. Like, oh, I've got to run 5e, otherwise my players won't play anything else. And it's like, to hell with them then. Like, the way you GM is you go, I've got this idea for a game. I'm running it in this day. Show up if you want to play. And if like only 2 people show up, you find some new blood. And that's it. Play what you love, because that's going to come through you setting up the game. Otherwise, what are you going to do? You're going to run the game like it's a chore, and it's going to feel like shit. And you're going to, I don't know. I don't know why people do it. They feel like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
What?
I didn't. Everything okay, Timmy? I thought I was like, it's a little late for the roosters to be crowing. Oh, gotcha.
It sounds.
That's my
it's
dog.
A puppy crying.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she's upset. Everybody's outside. We're gonna have a cookout soon.
Oh, there you go.
Everybody's outside. She's wanting outside.
Of course she
Yeah.
does.
She'll explain about it.
One, I want the pets. 2, I smell the meat.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think we're cooking yet, but people are outside, so she wants to be outside.
She's mad because she didn't get the invite to the cookout. That's racist.
Yeah.
But Yeah. Like if you have a group of people and they really want to play a role-playing game,
There's people.
then you
who
could
want
just
to.
be like, look, like you just said, Paul. I mean, if they really want to play a role-playing game, I cannot imagine a player being like, I will only play 5e. Like,
Yeah, I don't
Really?
think that.
There are people that try to pull that shit because they're trying to strong arm you.
I know.
You just go, sorry, we're not playing 5e. So it's up to you whether or not you show up.
see,
And if you do show up, don't fuck with the game. You know?
No, Steven just said he's got a friend that's a slave. I cannot even imagine that. You know what I play? Whatever the DM is running.
Yeah, no.
If my DM says, hey, we're going to play Vampire, we're playing
We're playing
second
Vampire.
edition or fifth, whatever edition, and I'm like, awesome, bro, I will be there. You know? And I am there because I told him I would be. But he could say, hell, I played a game with him one time. He's like, I want to run this game. And I'm like, cool. The game didn't exist. He just made shit up. But I do know that my character in the game was a firefighter and I could control fire.
There you go.
Because when you made your character, you could pick an element or something that you could actually control. And that's what all the characters were. And then the way he was running the game, he said he based it on something. Was like percentile. And like all the rest of the people in the world who couldn't control these things hated us and wanted us dead.
Okay.
Now, I don't know where he got that from, but yeah. And then you had to roll a die to see how powerful you were. Like my wife was like an alpha level, could control lightning.
Right.
But I was like a mid-range fire controller guy. I couldn't create it. I could just control it, you know? But yeah,
it's
the
pretty,
whole
pretty much a story
from
pretty much a story from the X-Men for the most part. Like, you know, they all feared the mutants because what they could do, and they could do stuff like that, like control the weather, you know, create storms, or control fire but not create it, all that.
Yeah, pretty much. And the rules he was using, I think, were based on like an entirely other game than what we were playing, you know?
Right.
Our characters were just written out on a piece of paper, and we played that game. We had a great time, actually. We're having a blast, you know? I was playing the guy that, you know, we were ducking and weaving from the FBI and whatever, and, you know.
I gotta say, I'm having fun with the Dragon Slayer.
Of course you are. And no insult against the guy who wrote Dragon Slayer, but it's BXD&D.
Yeah.
If you like BXD&D, then Dragon Slayer is right up your street. It's like somebody saying, I love OSD.
You ever played it?
Of course you do. It's BXD&D. I mean, literally.
To be fair, I never played any of the BX style games, so this was my first.
To be fair, though, for whatever reason, when it comes to people wanting to make a heartbreaker of a D&D game, they always pick BX.
Yeah. I love that. They're like, I'm going to make a heartbreaker by making a clone.
Yeah, and it's like...
Just tell me how fucking lazy you are.
Yeah, and it's always BX. It's almost like, not always, but like finding a game based on the Holmes edited edition or Metzer. Yeah, you don't really see that. It's all Mulvey Cook, baby.
Right.
Okay. OSE itself started out as just the notes that the guy running a game kept for his Mulvey Cook game. And he ended up with so many notes, he said, I might as well publish this shit. And he did.
Right.
Okay.
I just gotta say, I like Bubba's style of gaming. You know, he's a good DM.
Yeah, Dragon Slayer, I own the hardbound book. I supported it mainly because, again, I like Gillespie. I'll probably never, ever play it. But, I mean, yeah, it's BXD&D, guys. That's what it is. If you grew up with the magenta box with the Viking-looking dude chucking a spear at a dragon and the sorceress, you know what it is, and it is as awesome as that box was. And you could play any setting, really. So, I mean, knock yourself out. And again, I'm not trying to take away from Gillespie. I think the guy is I love the Barrowmaze stuff. I really do. I'm not trying to take away from... I don't even know who makes OSE. I don't even know who did that. I know it's Necrotic Gnome, but like the actual writer, I have no idea what his name is. I never cared because it's just BX, you know. Now Jeffrey Talanian, I know exactly who the hell that guy is because I care about Hyperborea more than I ever cared about OSE. OSE could have been replaced with anything.
Yep.
Its selling point is the guy organized his books amazing. But there's not a rule or anything in those books that you couldn't find. Hell, I was running OSE for a while, and we literally stopped running OSE and just started playing AD&D. Like straight out of the books, you know, straight out of the first edition AD&D books. We're just like, we'll just play AD&D, and we did, and it worked just fine. I think it's the one most of us of our generation, Decado, started with. Because most of us missed the little white books. And most of us even missed the Blue Holmes edited version. But by the time the Moldvay Cook box sets come out, I think that's when D&D was getting big. And we all ended up with that, of our generation, not younger ones, obviously. But I have a friend that's 5 years younger, and he is absolutely in love with Mitzer, you know, Beckman. That was his, you know, it's, for me, BX is like my first girlfriend. We're not together, but I still always kind of like her, you know. Don't mean I want to get back together with her, though. But yeah, that's what it is. And we all have that. Whether it's Beckme or Traveler or whatever it is. We all have that one we started with that we're always gonna have some emotion for, I think.
Yeah. I started with second edition, the black and red covers, so it was like the revised second edition or whatever, and it's like I said, I started D&D with that. I didn't start role playing. Again, it's up in the air whether it was Palladium's After the Bomb or what was it, GURPS Auto Duel. I think it was GURPS Auto Duel. Oh. And I don't have feelings for either of those either. Not a whole lot.
I'm like the weird newbie started out at 5th edition and they've got to the old school gaming.
I talk a lot of times in a very broad brush. There's probably millions of people who are not what I'm saying, but there's millions who are.
No, I think most people started with D&D. And I think that's kind of a big problem with trying to get them to branch out to anything that isn't kind of that kill level up, kill more level kind of play loop that D&D is.
Yeah,
my favorite play loop isn't about leveling up at all.
Well, because you know, when you play RuneQuest and stuff like that, there are no levels.
Yes.
I started with D&D, just like Paul said, like most of us, but TSR was good enough when I was a kid to put out Gamma World 2nd edition and Star Frontiers, and so you know, yeah. I ended up playing. I played Top Secret. I still own the box set, the original one, and I own Top Secret SI, which I think is a better version. But hey, whatever, right? I mean, yeah, those were great days. You could go to the Walden Books, and there was the shelf of role-playing games, and it was almost all TSR created stuff, but there was a shit ton of it.
Yep.
You know, it was like, all right, got a game. Yep, go run your game, brother.
Yeah, Dakota.
Supposed to be in a couple of minutes. Saxis has got his Rogue Trader going, which has been a good one too.
Nice.
Who's doing Rogue Trader?
I don't got a game
Saxis
tonight,
is running it. So.
Oh yeah, Sax. I talk about Oscar. Yeah, we talk about that dude, man. He's been running that Rogue Trader game for a long time too.
Yep.
With just shifting characters because people have left, new people have joined.
Yeah. Or people haven't shown up and we had to replace them, and yeah, it's been interesting. He was showing yesterday some of the rules he was using in back because I mentioned what was that, Kevin Crawford's in Worlds Without Number. He's got the faction moves, He was
Yeah.
saying how he was using
No,
those to run the factions in a Shadowrun game, and I was like, "You were running a Shadowrun game?" And he's like, "Yeah," and I quit after like 5 sessions because they weren't interacting with all the stuff that I was throwing out there, and I was like, "God damn it!" You know?
yeah.
I tell you what,
You know, Paul.
if Oscar were to be like, yeah, I'm thinking about running a Shadowrun second edition rule or game,
yeah.
I'd be like, hell yeah, bro. I'll be
Yeah.
putting on like that Sony PlayStation club music in the background. You know what I'm talking about? That
Yeah, the old Sega Genesis stuff. Yeah.
oh hell yeah, shutting loud. Like,
You always had to go there because that's where the Mr. Johnsons had all the jobs, and they were usually like, "Yeah, go to the Barrens and clear this building out. And you got to go gun down
Oh,
ghouls
yeah.
and all that."
Ghoul hunts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're up there, they'd play the scary music. That oh, I love that song. Me and my wife love that game.
Yeah.
As like the best game. Why they never made a multiplayer like that or anything else?
The only one they had was Boston
I
Lockdown that had multiplayer, and that was dog shit because it was made by some Austrian or German company, and it was all half-assed. It played a lot like the new XCOM did, where you had like the whole move attack action economy. But at least they had different stuff you could play, where it was like you could hack, you could rig and stuff, but it wasn't anywhere as good as the Harebrained Schemes one that came out with.
I played the Harebrained Schemes one, and I beat it. It was really good. It took me a long time.
Yeah.
To get through. But what was it called? Dead Man's Switch or some shit like that? Because like your friend died, but like it sent you information about something, and
oh shit, I forget because that game came out.
I think
this
you
is
ended up
over
even
a
fighting
decade
some
ago.
like insect spirits and shit.
Yes, I think so in that one. Yeah, because there was that one, and then Dragonfall was the one based in Germany. That was the second one that was really good, and then they did Hong Kong, which was they did 3 games, and like they were just solid. And then unfortunately, as what's his name does, he's just one of those guys where he's like, we've got enough success. I'm just gonna pack it in and do something else with my life. And you're like,
oh, wife.
Yeah.
And
And
it's like,
it sucks because if like I had like maybe 2 or 3 more years, I could have worked at FASA because they're just downtown. If they would have stayed here in Chicago, I would have been like, hey, I'll work. What do you need me to do? I'll pack boxes. I love Shadowrun, and we were playing Vor at the time and all the other games.
FASA is so sad to me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, that was the thing. They got the perfect buyout because I think Microsoft saw, okay, we could get Mech Warrior, we could get the big one for them because they're a bunch of idiots was Crimson Skies. Crimson Skies came out, and they were like, Microsoft was like, we could make all kinds of flight games out of this. Let's buy them for that alone. So,
yeah, I remember they used to sell those miniatures all the time.
Yeah.
Like a long time ago, I'd go to my comic shop, and there were all those Crimson Sky mini packs you could buy that would have like, an airplane in it or something, and they were like all the different factions with the different airplanes or whatever.
Yeah.
I never bought any of them because I was just like, nah.
There was plenty that came in the base box. Like I never got to play too much of it, to be honest. It was an interesting little game. It was a little dogfight game, but it wasn't anything too crazy cool.
No, I absolutely loved Shadowrun first and second edition. I started sliding away as editions came out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even necessarily the rules. A lot of it was just setting changes that I was like, yeah, that kind of, I don't like technomancers and shit like that. I didn't like that.
Yeah, it was stupid.
Because it's like, yes, you have magic and technology, but you keep them separate.
Right.
You know, but that was such a. I was in Fort Stewart at the end of 1989, and there was a guy in my battalion running Shadowrun second edition, and every Saturday night when we weren't in the field, I'd have my flat of Bush tall boys. We'd be over there, man. Eventually, because source books came out for second edition, had great source books, and I ended up playing a druid, which is kind of like a shaman, but different.
Sure.
But, oh man, I still have the second edition rulebook, the Street Samurai's Guide, Native American Nations. Like, man, 2E was so good. And really the only thing they did from 1E is they just like made all of the successes to test down damage uniform.
Yeah.
I mean,
I forget which edition this is for, if it's third or fourth, but the Sprawl Survival Guide is one of the best role-playing source books ever. Mostly because it's like you could use it for any edition of Shadowrun. It just gives you rules on how to break down your lifestyle costs.
right.
So instead of it just being like, 300, 600, whatever, and it gives you a general idea, this gives you every neighborhood in Seattle, what it's like to live there, like what kind of building you're in, if you have like nosy neighbors, or if you have like escape hatches in case you're worried about like the corpse coming after you. There's all this little customability in it, on top of like just things like what kind of sports do they watch when there's like physical adepts or trolls with cyberware. There's like a super heavyweight boxing divisions because you have these chromed up trolls and shit. Just little like stuff about the life of living in the universe. Those are the kind of source books that I'm like, awesome. Anything that just adds more mechanics, I could go, take them or leave them.
Yeah, I love that. You like the Native American Nations and Aztec Naji book.
Yeah.
It was just all the lore and stuff that was really. Now, Cyberpunk, I love the rules to Cyberpunk, but Cyberpunk, unfortunately, Steven, is not Shadowrun. Now, I know my homie, I talk about him a lot, even though we don't cross roads very much these days. Max is not a huge fan of Shadowrun. He likes Cyberpunk, and I get it. That's fine. But I don't know. Something about a group that's got like a mage, a dog totem shaman, a street samurai, and a troll with a big wicked freaking panther autocannon. That shit just makes me giggle, I mean, is it super realistic? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe so.
Yeah.
But it just really hits that spot. That
You say that now, James, but then you have to deal with the squirt gun wars.
Well, I mean, it shows you the breadth of options that it has because it has that magic aspect to it. Because one time we played, and I think all of us independently came up with magic using characters, and then we realized, oh shit, we could form like a circle. We can form our own lodge. We could do our own astral quests. We could do an entire section of the magical aspect of the game you could never usually mess with because there's only like one or two casters if you have a big party, because magic's extremely rare. But it was like I was playing a physical adept, one of my buddies was playing a shaman, my one friend was pretty much playing he was just always making deals with elementals, so he was like the heavy artillery because he would have fire elementals like on task ready to go in case the shit hit the fan. So it was like we had all these different types of magic users, and we're like, wow, okay, cool, we could do like the really in-depth magic stuff in here, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
which usually don't
get totems or amulets and all kinds of shit.
Yep.
Because a lot of that stuff requires a whole circle to expend magic points to make like some of those good things. And you're like what you're saying, most groups never have enough mages to do it just themselves. But yeah, a party of mages all getting together and creating a circle. Plus, if you're in your lodge, don't you get like huge bonuses when you want to like deal with elementals or whatever? I think you do. So that would just be OP as shit, really.
Yeah, well, that was the thing we realized. It was like, oh, it's cheaper karma to learn stuff. We could all like, because we set up. If you set up a lodge, then you can dedicate yourself to a totem. And then when you do that monthly, I think it's either monthly or it's every like lunar calendar. So it's like every 4 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it is for the lunar cycle. Then you could do a gathering in order to do astral quests and all that stuff to learn meta magic, which completely changes how you wield magic and you get these interesting abilities. There's just so much better rules for how magic, well, I'll say more interesting rules for how magic works than say like the standard Vancian shit. In this one, it's like, no, yeah, you kind of learned like the breadth, or kind of you widened the scope of what you could do as you initiated in magic and got more power. So this is just fun.
Yeah, man, If you're a shaman, you're basically trying to make friends with your totem. And if you're a mage, you're doing math and Aleister Crowley shit.
Right.
And if you try to push too hard, you can just burn your whole brains out.
Yeah, that was it. It was pretty much you had burnout, but
Yeah.
you would take stun, and that was the crazy thing. It'd be like, oh man, I'm getting really burned out from all the magic I'm taking. So you'd hit yourself with a slap patch with amphetamines or whatever, so you could keep going because you're trying to survive, deal with the
Right.
repercussions later.
And that was one of the player types you could actually play was the burnout mage.
Yep.
And except he had like cyber eyes and a pistol and shit like that because he burned himself out so bad he was just over it, you know.
Yeah. I think one of the last ones I played, I had a guy who was he worked for like a dock wagon type company, or at least at one point he did. And so he had all kinds of like actual medic skills on top of being a bear shaman. But you could put like your number one priority in magic so that you could be, I forgot what, it's like a full-blooded magician, but you could also buy physical adept powers.
Right.
So it was like you were spread out. So I had to focus, but I focused mostly on healing spells. So I did that. I bought a foci for that to help with drain. So it was mostly like, okay, I'm going to focus on healing spells and keeping everybody standing. Everybody else be the psycho killers, you know? And I'm just going to be the guy that's pretty much patching people up and carrying them to the car.
Well, that game. What were you going to say, Timmy?
I gotta go. I'll see you.
Oh, I'll see you, bro. Have fun with your game.
Not game. It's cookout.
Well, have fun with your cookout.
Eating delicious meats.
See ya.
Let that poor dog out.
What kind of cookout are you having if there's no horseshoes?
Yeah, you got to be playing. We got to play. What was that? Cornhole or whatever with the bags.
Cornhole. We always played horseshoes because cornhole didn't exist back then. So
Old school.
But
I do believe I am getting summoned by Saxius though, so I will have to run as well. So
yeah. If Oscar's calling, you gotta go. But
I'm gonna bounce. But yeah, it's good talking to you. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. I probably should talk to Jeff about how he feels about all of my Willet Hyperborea stuff. I know he likes the art that I do. Well, and Paul, brother, is always, whether you're listening or not, PB, you are always welcome. Always welcome. I always extremely enjoyed my conversations with Paul. Even if we don't agree, I always have such a great time hanging out with that dude. He is just a really good dude, you know. There's dudes that I like a lot, and then there's dudes that are kind of like even above that rank of dude. And Paul's kind of in that upper rank of dudes. Him and Timmy, really. You know, Shadow. I'm not going to name all of them, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And they're definitely, I sound like a surfer boy, but they're definitely at that dude level, you know, where you're just like, dude. Right? Like, I see what you're saying, dude, you know? Yeah. Plus, Paul's so smart, and he plays the games I love. I mean, man, I could sit on here for hours and just reminisce in the glow of the greatness that was Shadowrun 2nd edition. To me, I played the shit out first. That was the one I bought first in like 89. But when 2nd came out, oh my God. So yeah, the guy in the army in 89 was running 1st edition because it came out in 89. I know that. But as soon as 2nd edition came out, we swapped to that, and it was like, I know between me and my bros, we all used to hang out in this trailer park because one of the guys that ran the game, he lived there. And between us, we probably had a 55-gallon barrel full of frickin' books for Shadowrun. I mean, And unlike second edition D&D, Shadowrun, when they put out, like during the second edition era, when they put out books, they were good books that you wanted. You actually really wanted those books, you know? Like the Street Samurai Guide or the freaking Native American Nations 1 and 2, Tir Tangier, Tir Nanog. I mean, no matter where you were playing or what kind of game you were playing, all of those books were just good, you know? Just good books. You know, I had the one that was like the Street Survival Guide for second edition, and it had like all the different areas of Seattle and the gangs of those areas, and like food and Stuffer Shack stuff, and like, yeah, Shadowrun was an amazing game. And the other game FASA put out that I absolutely loved was Mech Warrior. I ran Mech Warrior second edition for like a year. And I've had people ask me, how do you run a Battletech campaign and it not just turn into, you know, just playing Battletech, but with your own characters? And I wish I hadn't deleted some of those videos now, but I've opined about how there are ways to get the players out of the mechs and have them doing stuff, you know, like one great one is investigations. You cannot investigate to try and find where treasure is sitting in the cockpit of a 55-ton mech. I mean, is it going to come down the mechs at some point? Obviously it is. You're playing Mech Warrior. I mean, so if you're surprised that there's mechs involved, I don't know what to tell you, man. You picked the wrong game or something. You made mistakes in your life, right? Of course, it's going to be about mechs, but you know, you can have them going from world to world, trying to investigate rumors, which was one of the campaigns I ran, and it lasted for a long time, and the players loved it. And it was called, in hindsight, I call it The Hunt for Black Gold. And it was basically this really old man had hinted that he knew where an old Comstar base was from like the First Succession War or whatever. So then the players spent like so much of their time trying to track down any information that they could find about this base, because the old man who knew about the base, he didn't quite remember the world it was on though, but he knew that it was in a certain region. So the players end up having to go from one planet to the next into the cities and try to find books, manuals, data crystals, just people who might know. And what made the game interesting is there was another mercenary company that had a lot of the same info they had. And so they were actually competing with another group of mech warriors to see who could find this old Comstar base. And the Black Gold was a still functioning Comstar era thug mech, 80 ton, I believe. And we're talking like a mech that had like, you know, ERPPCs and double heat sinks. So true treasure in the era of, you know, 3025, something that was actually like almost like an artifact in D&D, right? Was an artifact, actually. I mean, that's a fair way to describe it. It was an artifact. It was an ancient mech. Yeah, dude. That had all that old school Comstar technology that they'd only even dreamed or heard of in rumors and shit. And eventually, after many jumping from one world to the next, talking and hearing rumors and lies, and then eventually figuring things out. The players show up at the site of the Comstar base, which was underground, built into the side of a mountain, and had been buried on purpose. So the opening was literally covered in a rock slide. And that other group had been just basically following the players around, hoping that they could catch them slipping, you know? So when they actually did find where the place was, and they used, I think one of the guys used their griffin to, use their griffin because it had hands to dig away the rock that was stopping the gate, right? That's when the enemy mercenary unit drop shipped on scene. And then the next thing you know, the players are like, oh shit, you know, we got to fight these guys off to get this treasure. And they left one of the guys in the party who had lost his mech to like go into the base and try to power it up and get the doors open. So while they were out there outnumbered fighting this other mercenary unit, the one guy was in the Comstar base trying to wire the reactor up again. And then when he got into the mech, the Black Gold, that big, you know, thug, it had no ammo. So when he started it up, it was like no SRMs, but it still had those PPCs though. So he stomped out and got into the fight himself. And, you know, they did win, but it was close, man. But what was the reward? A badass 80-ton mech. A badass 80-ton mech. And they must have, that campaign went for, oh man, fair part of a year. And Hungar, he never gave up his mech. He started the game in a 35-ton mech and ended the campaign in that same 35-ton mech. And of course, those of you who know my brother, you probably already know, yes, it was a Jenner. He had a Jenner, it was painted green or gray, and it was called the Johnny Reb. And he played a mech pilot who had been trained by House Kurita, but then decided to, you know, become a mercenary. So House Kurita hated him because, you know, and he his character was a Japanese guy who was basically obsessed with the American Wild West. He was a Japanese guy who had been born on a Kurita planet in the Draconis Combine, raised with Bushido and the whole 9 yards, but from a young age had become obsessed with spaghetti westerns and the Civil War and all that sort of thing. Like his character, one of his favorite movies was The Outlaw Josie Wells. And so, yeah, that was just how his character was. And, yeah. And we had characters that lost their mechs or traded mechs or bought new mechs or, you know. One thing I didn't let the characters do too much is overly modify the mechs. Like the clear bases. I have a bunch of the clear bases I bought. And all of my Shadowrun and Cyberpunk miniatures are mounted on clear bases. I don't know why. Kind of like all of my, well, not all of, but a lot of my sci-fi miniatures are mounted on 1-inch hex bases that I got from like Grenadier or something like that. So they're not the size of a Valtech base at all. They're smaller, and yeah, I mounted quite a few different things on those bases over time. You know, I mounted some aliens on them. I mounted some moderns, so like special forces and Spetsnaz guys. Back before I deleted the video where I show how to run a game of Twilight 2000 Combat with miniatures, that's what I used, was, you know, a bunch of moderns on 1-inch hex bases. And it actually looked pretty good, you know. A lot of people, you got to be pretty old school to remember when Citadel Miniatures actually sold some of their Chaos Champions on hex bases. Because I remember buying a pack with 2 Chaos Champions in it. I know one was Slanesh because he is half dressed and wearing like weird clothes, like BDSM clothes. And he came with a hex base. But for Cyberpunk, I use the clear bases, though, for the most part. But for most other things, I just use the round 25 mil bases that Games Workshop makes, or that somebody makes, because, you know, I buy from pretty much when I go online, I get a lot of my bases from just whichever company's selling them cheaper. So Proxy Base is a company that I'll get bases from, or whatever, you know. I've actually got some Renundra bases that come pre-sculpted to look like flagstones. Those are cool, but you can really only use them if the miniatures you're using, you either have to cut them off of that little thing that they're on, that little pond or whatever they call it, or they don't come with it. So that's kind of an issue, because like Reaper miniatures almost always have, you know, they're standing on some kind of base. So you can't put them on top of flagstone if they're standing on whatever they're standing on. But like this guy right here, which is a Fireforge miniature for a Byzantine spearman, they don't come on the little bases. So these dudes you can mount on those flagstones or those pre-sculpted bases, and they look great, or clear bases, and they look really good. So yeah, I am very carefully currently painting the leather loincloths on my blimmies. Like I told you guys on the last show, I think that I did, I really got sick of looking at all their little naked asses. So I used green stuff and some other stuff, and I made them all loincloths. I actually sent a picture of them to the person who made them for me, because they were custom jobs, and she was like, man, that looks super cool. She wanted to know what game I was using them for, so of course I had to write a whole paragraph about the glory of Hyperborea, and then I linked her to the audiobook on YouTube of The Door to Saturn, and I told her that the Blimmy are in that actual story. And, you know, she's like, awesome, I'll listen to it maybe later tonight or something. I don't know if she did, but, you know, the option was there, right? Right. And any of you who end up watching this at some point in the future, I have that same advice for you. The Doorway to Saturn by Clark Ashton Smith. It is a really good story, and it's not even long. So it's not like you would have to dedicate more than maybe an hour of your time, maybe a little more to it. And I'm telling you now, I think that you will enjoy it. You know, if you like fantasy stories. And then, even if you don't play Hyperborea, you might be like, you know, so this amazing story I just read was part of the inspiration for Hyperborea. And then you might decide, maybe I should look into this Hyperborea role-playing game. Now that I know a little bit about the background and stuff. Hirelings and Henchmen from Reaper for your Frostgrave game. Awesome. That's a thing I keep saying when I talk about Frostgrave. It's like, as long as the weapons the miniature is carrying are correct, nothing else matters really about it. You know? Thieves carry daggers or knives of some sort. Thugs carry one-handed weapons and they don't wear armor. And then it just goes from there, you know. Archers got bows. Crossbowmen have crossbows. Knights have a sword and a shield, but Templars have a two-handed sword, you know. Now, I am hoping I didn't miss them come out with the second edition book that lets you just play a warrior hero. The first edition book had that. I've been wondering if he will come out with a second edition one. Because honestly, if I had my way, I would play Frostgrave without a mage in the group. Or maybe just a mage apprentice, but have the leader of my warband be a fighter. You know, as long as he could like level up and get better at being a fighter, like in first edition. But you still had to have a mage in the first edition. A book of short stories. Hey, who knows? Maybe I should write some kind of short story about the adventures of James Hawkwin and Bear. Especially since, according to the story, James is from the modern day Earth and somehow got snatched across the universe and ended up in Hyperborea. So that would be kind of an interesting thing, you know, an actual modern day human showing up in Hyperborea and then having to deal with it. Yeah, I can't wait for that Cremorium thing. If he does a Kickstarter on that, I know I'm getting on that one for real. For real. Because I mean Cremorium is so important to the game setting. You don't have to play there, and it's still super important just because it's the largest city in the realm. It's the place. It's like New York, man. It's where everything is happening. Right? Or Chicago, depending on your point of view. But I mean, I already know about how the city's split into boroughs, and there's like the Viking area and the jungle version doesn't have magic users, or Moo? You mean the people, the Moo? Yeah, an Undercity map would be good. It would explain that whole section near the docks that's apparently sinking into the ocean, where all the buildings are connected by like walkways and shit like that. I mean, we could figure out what happened. Well, obviously what happened is the Undercity in that region must have collapsed in. like a big sinkhole or something. But yeah, if you look at your map, you'll notice that there's a whole section there towards the middle near the dock where it's caving in. And also, there's an adventure that goes into a little bit about the Undercity. It's in the Rats in the Walls adventure. They talk about, like, you know, some of the stuff under the city. But I mean, you know, they don't go into detail, so that's going to be... Okay. Okay, so no magic users. I don't know if that would affect my group that much anyway. I've got a Cryomancer, but... Well, no, the Cleric. But most of the characters in my game are not magic users. They're, you know, assassins and fighters and stuff like that. I've got a couple of thief types, a couple of fighter types, and then like one cleric and one mage. Actually, two mages, the witch. So yeah, two mages. But I wonder. I don't know if the group could have survived some of the stuff they did without the witch. She has saved their ass a few times, but she's also almost killed them a few times too, so. FG. FG. What does FG stand for? I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, Frostgrave. Oh, the jungle game. Yeah. Yeah, like Ghost Archipelago. They don't have mages. They have like the captains of the ships, but the captains are supposedly like they have powers. Yeah. Now, of probably a lot more interest to you, though, is that the savage humans from Ghost Archipelago are excellent for use with Hyperborea. I kid you not, they are so good. They could be choo-choo people, just basically any tribe of degenerate or primitive humans you ever wanted to use. I mean, these guys are your go-to. And for the money and the amount of options and everything you get, I mean, yeah, these guys are like perfect if you need, you know, like I said, the choo-choo people or primitive cults or something like that. Those guys are right up your alley, man. And plus, you know, they come with so many extra weapons and bits. You can use them with your serpent men, your gnolls, whatever, right? So yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't want them to change Frostgrave at all. I just want that addition to it. And I don't even care if that would put me at a huge disadvantage. I just, you know, it was in first edition. I have the book where you could have a human champion in your warband. I just wish they would go that step further and make it where your warband could just be ran by the human champion. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Like, and I know you've seen them, but I will show this guy off again. Um, these are the Ghost Island Serpent Men that I have placed their torsos on the Bones White Nephidians or whatever. And they fit right, they fit no problem. And they end up looking 100 times better. And I mean, I know it means you've got to kit bash 2 different kits, but you don't, I mean, the Bones Nephidians are so damn cheap. Yeah, they're kind of small. That's a fact. They're kind of small, but still useful. Like between North Star Miniatures and War Games Atlantic, man, I just, and then throw in the odd Reaper order here and there, and I'm just running amok with stuff, Like the last Reaper order I made was actually a pretty cheap one, because all I ordered was like tables for a tavern. They had some round tables, so I just ordered round tables, and I ordered a couple of figures that are sitting in chairs. They don't come with chairs, but they're sitting in chairs. But the round tables come with chairs. So, yeah, I'm just gonna put a couple guys in chairs at these round tables, and then whenever I feel the need to actually make a tactical layout of a tavern, say for a bar fight or something, I could throw those guys down. Yeah, Reaper nose are big, and the ones I use are big, but they're all of my nulls that I use are from Otherworld Games, and they went out of business, but you can still get their figures from, I think, Badger Miniatures. But Otherworld used to make all of the miniatures that were like dead on from the Monster Manual. And that's one of the reasons I have a lot of the pig-faced orcs I have, is I bought a lot of the Otherworld's pig-faced orcs, including mounted on giant boars and stuff. So, yeah. So yeah, this brown I'm putting on these guys is literally just going to be like a base color. I can already tell. I might go over it with like snakebite leather. Oh, the HeroQuest furniture set's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of the Reaper Knolls and like the leaders, and they're pretty badass. I'll tell you that. They're big. They're scary looking critters, But I've like, I've told you I like the kit bash a lot. So like on my table now, I've got like bits from like 3 different things. I've got sprues from Games Workshop's Flagellants. So, they're crazy people. And then I've got the Primitives, the Serpent Men from North Star Miniatures. And then also on the table is Cultists from North Star Miniatures, Cultist number 3, and then War Games Atlantic, Satyrs and Werewolves. Well, they're expensive, but see, the guy who used to own it he would about once every 3 months, he would put on a sell where I don't know if it was just whatever he had a lot of laying around or what he would do, but he would do a sell and he would sell stuff like buy one, get one. So with him, say you wanted orcs, right? And they're like $10 for 2 of them. You just wait. And when that shit goes BOGO, then you start buying all your orcs, right? And that's how I got my pig riders, because those pig riders were like, I don't know, almost $15 a piece. But he went on sale with them, buy one, get one or something. And I was like, all right. 2 for 15, I'll do that. So, but for the longest time before he sold, it was just a one-man job in England. It was, some dude, and he ran the store. I think he actually made the miniatures. I'm not sure who the sculptor was. I think it was him. I could be wrong. And it was, so it was just like, just this guy putting out awesome miniatures. Some of the best he put out, actually, I think, were the goblins. Because they look like goblins from the AD&D books. So they were like cool with their little helmets with the little horns and stuff. The frog demon. Nice. I got my Tasagwa, which I think I've put him up, but I know I've showed him to you. I 3D printed him back when I used to 3D print a lot. I 3D printed a lot of Lovecraft stuff, and he was one of them. I also have the elephant deity that's got like the big sucker cup at the end of his trunk. What's his name? I think it starts with an F. 3D printed Shub-Niggurath, the goat with 1,000 young, and I've got this is a wild figure, really. This is the 3D printed Dunwich Horror. You can see the human face on the one side, and he's covered with tentacles and eyeballs, and then on the other side is his actual mouth, which I haven't done the doors yet. Yeah, Otherworld Miniatures shut up shop, but then Badger Miniatures picked up where they left off. So you can still get the Otherworld Miniatures, but you have to go through Badger. And then this guy, which I need to make a brighter, more weird purple color. This is Nyarlathotep. Like if you had summoned him. I started with a purple, but I want to make him like a little bit more pinky red. So, and that's just what's sitting here. I've got a whole box of Lovecraftian miniatures that I use for my Mansions of Madness game. Huge fan of Mansions of Madness, so yeah, I had to print out all kinds of stuff for that. And then I decided I wasn't going to print no more, so I still have printers that I could use. I still have a pair of Mars 2 Pros that I could use, but whatever. And I told my nephew that I whenever he wants, he can have the Saturn. See if he wants to do some printing. But I got tired of dealing with the resin, actually. The resin was just, I started thinking about it and started being like, is this really worth it? Like, you wear your gloves and you wear your protective equipment, your PVE, but I mean, still, you know, you still have this incredibly toxic stuff out in the garage. You can get into it, whatever. So if I ever get back into printing again, it'll be when filament printing finally hits the point where it can make miniatures that look awesome. And it's very close already. And then I'll get rid of all the resin printers and I'll just get me a really good filament printer. And honestly, I'll probably spend most of my time just making buildings and terrain and stuff with it. I know some of those filament printers, man, you can do like huge stuff on it. Or part it out and do it a part at a time, right? So, yeah. If I ever dive back into 3D printing again, that's what it will be. See, this is kind of like a Blimmy chief. I gave him a big ass sword, but what makes him even more of the chief is he's got a beheaded head hanging off of his belt. You know, because he's a headhunter and he's actually wearing armor. So that's a thing. Maybe I should put some paint on him, like some blue swirls or something. That would look cool, right? Anyway. What time do we got? Oh, it's 6 o'clock, so we'll see. I have some of my players show up early because they're also friends. So they would just want to show up and shoot the breeze for like a while before the game starts. And they usually show up about now. You know? Which, fortunately, I did climb my butt out of bed, do my floors, and clean the toilet in the front room. And so the wife, you know, I did a lot of chores today. Oh, well, here is the thing about that, Stephen. In my Hyperborea campaign, the Blimmies aren't trapped on Saturn. There are Blimmies that live on Hyperborea, actually, or can go back and forth because, you know, their god allows them to. So, yeah. Kind of like how I've got all the miniature cats, like just tons of bases of cats. So I just said that it's against the law to harm a cat in Coborium. Now, we all know, those of us who read the mythos, that know that's actually Alkaline, where you can't harm a cat. But in DM James's version of Coborium, you also cannot harm a cat. And the goddess Bast is, while not an incredibly popular god, represented in the mythos. I think under a different name, though, under a name that Lovecraft gave her. But it's still, you know, it's still a cat-headed goddess. So, and further, the cat-headed goddess supposedly lives on the smaller moon. So may or may not be somehow related to Demeter or Artemis or whatever. And on certain times of the year, during certain nights, the cats of Coborium will climb to the rooftops and then leap to the second moon. And no one actually knows how they do that, but they do. Now, you would think that such a small thing would just be a whatever. My players were infinitely freaking entertained by the idea that you know. So to the point that my wife's character made it a point to try to befriend all the cats she could, but feeding them and petting them and talking nice and sweet to all the cats. And I played it off as if, yeah, the cats don't speak English, but they know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? So while she was petting a little kitten, she looked up and she saw a big old black cat, like a 15-pound black cat watching. And when she made eye contact with that big cat, there was like some recognition there. Like he was watching her to make sure she did not hurt that kitten. And then because she was super nice to the kittens and stuff, it actually played off for them in the Rats in the Walls adventure, because at some point some cats showed up to help them with the rats. You see what I mean? And I only had that happen because a couple of players, my wife was one, had went out of their way to gain the favor of these cats, which you can find all over the city. They just do whatever the hell they want, and no one dares touch them. You know, because it's a death sentence. If you kill a cat in Comorium, you get put to death. And it all makes sense when you think about it, because it's like, if you piss these cats off, even though Bast is not the main god of Comorium, obviously, that doesn't mean that she won't show up and F everything up. So, you know, under no circumstances do you harm a cat. Because it's kind of like how Yig is with his serpents. You know what I mean? The god Yig, he's a huge fan of his rattlesnakes, right? So if he catches you just running around killing rattlesnakes just because that's what you want to do, you could catch his attention. And if you do, it's not going to be good. An example would be, he will turn you into a rattlesnake. We're talking like polymorph other, but permanent. I guess if you had friends, you might be able to get that curse removed, but still would suck, right? I mean, in some of the stories, he'll turn you into a rattlesnake and then have you kill your own family as a rattlesnake. Just to teach you a lesson about killing snakes, right? But I mean, if you wanted to argue that the Blimmy, which it would be an argument, if you wanted to say in your world the Blimmy never leaves Saturn, then the counter argument to that, now that I think about it, where would a Blimmy chieftain get a human skull, is that humans do go to Saturn, though. You know what I mean? So even if the Blimmy never leaves Saturn, humans do travel to Saturn. And in the Hyperborea game, I believe there's actually some spells that will allow you to do that. You know, where you can actually travel to other planets. I suppose if you cut a deal with certain deities, they could send Byaki or something to fly you to Saturn. The Migo could take you to Saturn. So yeah, there's lots of ways a person could get to Saturn. Maybe you just worship the Sagwa and he gives you a doorway that, if you walk through it, takes you to Saturn. I mean, you know. But yeah, you do not mess with cats in Comorium. That is the rule. And I, of course, took that whole cloth from the Lovecraft story about the cats. Actually, the one story was about these old people who used to kill all of the villagers' cats. And one time, the old people trapped and killed this boy's kitten. And then all the cats in the village got together And the villagers never knew what happened, but after the old couple hadn't been seen for a long time, they broke into the cabin and all they found was their bones picked completely clean. And then after that, the village elders made a rule that you're not allowed to kill cats. So that was one of the stories. And like I said, in Hyperborea, I feel free to mix any ideas I have from wherever in with Hyperborea. You know, which is the main reason I love Hyperborea so much, is because you can do that. Like I just sit here and told you all about how you're not allowed to hurt cats in Comorium and exactly why. Made sense, right? Because once you accept Hyperborea, the premise of Hyperborea, then almost anything after that makes sense. You know? You're like, okay. Yeah. And that's the thing. And since, you know, we're probably never going to play Lovecraft, I feel free to mix all the stuff from Lovecraft, especially the Dreamlands, right into my Hyperborea game. So yeah, especially the Dreamland stuff, but not only. As a matter of fact, Underborea in my campaign links to the Dreamland. So if you go deep enough into Underborea, you can and will eventually run into ghasts and gugs and all the horrible shit. You know, there's caverns in Underborea that are so large that they hold entire forests, entire ecologies exist within these massive caverns. And then, of course, the story the players know about Gugs is they used to worship one deity, and then they switched to worshiping another deity. So the first deity cursed them to where they can only live in Underborea. If they actually ever came to the surface or anything, they'd just die. And I believe the two deities might have been Thagwa and Nyarlathotep. But I have to look at my notes to figure out which one did the cursing. Probably Tsagwa, but it could have been Nyarlathotep. But yeah. So if you ever happen into the DM James version of Comorium, though, do not be mean to a cat. And it's not even that the people will punish you for it. Think about the story I just told where all the cats go to those people's houses in the middle of the night and eat them. Well, that could happen to you. You could think that your player character could be like, oh yeah, I'm made in the shade. Everything's great over here. It's just all cream and gravy, right? And then in the middle of the night, you get attacked by 100 cats. You might even be able to kill a bunch of them. But eventually, they're going to get you. And then they're going to eat you. And then the next morning, somebody's going to go to your house or tavern room or whatever, having never heard a damn thing. And they're going to find your bones picked clean. And they're going to know you must have effed with a cat. And you should have known better. So one of the latest thumbnails is me and the giant Pomeranian. And the giant Pomeranian has a box strapped to its back. And the box is full of cats. And I'm starting to think that the story behind that picture is that Bear and I must have saved some cats from Gamorreum, from something, and we're taking them home. Because obviously, James Hawkwind and Bear the dog want to be on the right side with those cats. You see what I mean? That's just a given. We do not want to be in arrears or on the bad side or have any bad blood with the kittens. So we are taking them home to their kitty parents. Right? And the reward, of course, is just the cats will like us. That's the reward. You know? So that's an adventure that doesn't even involve doing it for the money. That's just doing it for love of the game, right? Let's go out here and save these cats so that we can get on the right side with this bunch of magic cats that runs the city, kind of in their own way. I mean, think about it. If you were good enough friends with those cats and you really needed to find something, even though the cats will never talk to you because they'll never talk, but they might show you something, right? Like if you were looking for a hidden crypt or something and, you know, you were to tell one of the cats you're looking for this hidden crypt somewhere or something like that, maybe the cats would consider it. And if you've been really good to them, who knows, they might actually lead you through the city to the area you are looking for, just because they like you and you fed them cream or gave them a fish or something. So yeah, that is a whole aspect to my game that ultimately doesn't seem like it matters, but to the players it matters intensely. You know what I mean? To the players, it's like a huge deal. All right. Get some of this. Painting this crossbow. I'm using this brown, this mahogany brown, but I feel like it will look better once it's had like a darker wash on it. It's just kind of, I don't know, a little flat looking to me. I'm thinking it's going to be a good base color though. That's what I'm using it for. So, and yeah, it just needs like a little bit of a wash. I'll try an Agrax Earth Shade, and if that don't pep it up enough, then I'll try mixing in some Nuln oil. See how that suits me, you know. So, yeah. Of course, the players aren't in Gamorreum right now. They're in the north, in a city on the coast of Brigands Bay. You know, adventure. Okay. All right. Getting the spear. this particular guy I'm painting right now, he's got his belt on, he's got a quiver of bolts, and he's carrying a spear. So, very cool. He's ready to duke it out at all ranges. You know? And the brown is almost gone, and I still have 2 to do. So I guess I should put a little bit more out. A little bit more of the mahogany. Well, and actually, I think I'll go ahead and end this. It's been over 2 hours. We're just kind of sitting here doing painting, so it's nothing exciting or anything. So I will chat with you guys later. And yes, humans, no template. Be what you want to be. Everything else, railroady. And we'll see who that drives crazy.